This is a chilling, true, and horrific crime story. The confession of a murderer. Stephen McDaniel. In a quiet neighborhood, Stephen McDaniel committed a horrifying act. He not only took the life of his neighbor, Lauren Giddings, but he also played a twisted game on live TV. Just days after Stephen carried out the gruesome murder and dismembered Lauren's body, he shamelessly put on a show. Posing as a concerned neighbor, he joined a TV interview about her disappearance. Little did he know that his deceit was about to crumble. The shocking twist came when the reporter dropped the bombshell. They had found Lauren's body. You can almost feel the tension as Stephen's facade shattered. The whole sinister episode unfolded in June 2011 in Macon, Georgia. Imagine the eerie scene. On the early morning of June 26th, Stephen forcibly entered Lauren's apartment, a fellow graduate from Mercer University Law School. The nightmare began, leading to Lauren's family and friends reporting her missing on June 29th. News crews descended on the apartment complex, and on June 30th, reporters from WGXA TV station engaged in an unwitting confrontation with the very person responsible for the tragedy, Stephen McDaniel himself. The chilling interview marked the unraveling of a murderer's carefully crafted deception. Initially, some people might have believed McDaniel's shock was just a natural response to losing a friend. However, the police quickly labeled him as a person of interest in the investigation just a day later. As the story unfolded, it became clear that McDaniel wasn't a grieving friend. He was the one responsible for Giddings' death and the gruesome dismemberment of her body. The shocking truth behind his initial reactions only added to the sinister nature of the crime. Considering the brutality of the crime and the limited interaction between McDaniel and Giddings before the murder, many speculate that if he hadn't been apprehended, he might have continued harming more women. Delving into the disturbing psyche of Stephen McDaniel reveals a chilling narrative. Born on September 9, 1985, near Atlanta, Georgia, McDaniel had a seemingly ordinary early life. However, as he matured, his academic pursuits led him to graduate from Mercer University's law school. It's worth noting that his future victim, Lauren Giddings, was also a graduate of the same institution. The juxtaposition of their academic achievements adds an unsettling layer to the story, hinting at a dark and twisted mind behind McDaniel's seemingly ordinary facade. In 2011, both McDaniel, age 25, and Giddings, age 27, resided in the same apartment complex, just a short distance from their law school's campus. Giddings, at 27, was gearing up to take the bar exam, with plans for a bright future as a defense attorney. Tragically, while Giddings was focused on her career goals and preparing for the bar exam, McDaniel was secretly plotting her murder. The stark contrast in their pursuits adds a haunting dimension to the story, underscoring the unpredictability of the tragedy that unfolded. McDaniel quickly attracted the attention of authorities early in the investigation. Right after Giddings' dismembered torso was discovered in a trash can near her apartment complex on the morning of June 30th, McDaniel, along with other neighbors, was brought to the police station for questioning about the young woman's disappearance. None of them were aware that her remains had already been found. During this time, each neighbor agreed to let the police search their apartments, except for McDaniel. His reasoning? "It's the lawyer in me," he claimed, stating that he was always protective of his space. Eventually, he allowed one detective to walk through his unit, but only if he was present at the same time. Considering the incriminating evidence later found in his apartment, it's not surprising that McDaniel was hesitant to cooperate fully. As it turned out, he had Giddings' underwear in his possession and a stolen master key that he had used to break into her apartment, adding a layer of suspicion to his actions. Due to McDaniel's suspicious behavior, the police kept a close watch on him. Unfazed, he lingered around the apartment complex throughout the day while authorities searched other units. This was the same day he gave his infamous interview with the local news station. As McDaniel stood by during the police investigation, a crew from WGXA, a local television news station, arrived at the building to cover the unfolding story. Spotting McDaniel in the vicinity, they approached him for an interview, and surprisingly, he agreed. Initially, McDaniel presented himself as a concerned local, expressing worry about his missing neighbor. He told the reporter, "We don't know where she is. The only thing we can think of is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. One of her friends had a key. We went inside and tried to see anything that was amiss. She had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in." Little did the reporter know that they were interviewing the very person connected to the sinister events they were reporting on. As McDaniel heard from the reporter about a body discovered in a nearby trash can, his entire demeanor took a drastic turn. Clearly distressed, he fell silent for a moment before expressing the need to sit down. Subsequently, it was disclosed that only Giddings' torso had been found, with the other parts of her body discarded elsewhere. As McDaniel struggled to maintain composure, the police delved deeper into their person of interest, uncovering unsettling details about his personal life. Authorities eventually stumbled upon evidence from McDaniel's laptop, revealing that he had been collecting information on Giddings and tracking her movements leading up to her tragic demise. The investigation also uncovered a series of videos showing that he had been stalking Giddings, peering into her apartment unit through a window. These disturbing findings painted a chilling picture of McDaniel's actions in the lead-up to the high-news crime. The case took a dark turn for McDaniel as the computer evidence started surfacing, and it just kept piling up, explained McDaniel's attorney, Frank Hogue, in a later statement to CBS News. They were continuously finding more and more evidence linked to his computer and camera. McDaniel's online posts expressing a general hatred of women and a desire to cause them harm further solidified the case against him in the gruesome murder. Even before the police had gathered this digital evidence, they were convinced they had their suspect based on initial conversations with McDaniel. On the very day they discovered Giddings' body, they brought McDaniel back to the police station for another round of questioning less than 12 hours later. This time, when Stephen McDaniel returned to the police station on the night of June 30th, 2011, his demeanor was unnervingly calm. He remained tight-lipped, offering only a few responses, often stating, "I don't know." Even in the absence of detectives from the room, McDaniel maintained an eerie stillness. It was a pivotal moment that hinted at the mounting evidence against him. The interview dragged on into the early hours of July 1st, and McDaniel remained silent. Detective David Patterson pressed McDaniel relentlessly, questioning him for hours about Lauren Giddings' whereabouts. Patterson asserted that he knew McDaniel was aware of what had transpired. Patterson also acknowledged the stark contrast in McDaniel's willingness to talk, noting the significant shift in demeanor from earlier in the day on June 30th. "Why are you shutting down?" Patterson questioned, probing for any sign or explanation behind McDaniel's sudden reticence. "I don't know," McDaniel repeated. Subsequently, Detective David Patterson exited the interrogation room, making way for Detective Scott Chapman. Despite a series of questions, McDaniel provided no substantial answers. In an attempt to connect with McDaniel on a more human level, Chapman appealed to his humanity. "We want to give you the opportunity to tell it," he said, "so you don't look like a monster at the end. I know you feel bad about it." Chapman's words aimed to elicit a confession, highlighting the potential for redemption and remorse in McDaniel's narrative. In 2014, McDaniel entered a guilty plea for the murder of Giddings. He openly admitted to breaking into her apartment using a stolen master key, strangling her to death, and then dismembering her body with a hacksaw in the bathtub. Following his guilty plea, he received a life sentence in prison for the horrific and gruesome crime. After Stephen McDaniel pleaded guilty to murdering Lauren Giddings in 2014, he's been trying to appeal his conviction. He's claimed his lawyers weren't good enough and said the state stole his defense plans. But every time he's tried, he hasn't succeeded. Even though he might be up for parole in 2041, legal experts think he's likely to stay in prison for the rest of his life. It's been a rocky road for him since admitting to the crime. Closing this chapter, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this perplexing crime. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't hesitate to hit that like button if you found this story intriguing. Help us reach a wider audience by sharing this video. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for more captivating content.